Bada boom, bada bing. Here we finally are. I know on Twitter I had said that we were going to go Sunday, but the person that holds the code to this account couldn't send it because he didn't have Wi-Fi because he's on a special trip. But other than
It's a
that,
great looking trip, by the way.
it is
But
a great.
hey, James, get off Magic Mountain for like 5 minutes and send us the dang code on Sunday, James. No, I don't want that.
Anyways, it's D434 back again, hosting because James is in Florida. And as always, we got Clark Monroe on the other side. Clarky, how's it going?
Oh, it's going great, Dill. It's been an interesting week. I started the show Ozark. I know I'm like 6 years late to this party, but I'm glad I got in. It's great. I'm like almost on the first season already, and it's exciting. I'm right after like the second you push end the show tonight. I'm jumping back in. I got the World Series on right now, but I don't think I'm putting priority back on Ozark right after this.
Of course. I love
Yeah.
those very interesting shows that I can never get too much of. I'm into Peaky right now, so I'm binge watching.
Oh, I haven't done that one, so maybe I should put it on the list.
It is great.
Okay, now we're going to go into a 20-minute segment about shows. We're not talking hockey at all.
Yeah, we're not talking hockey. No. So we are late on the Leafs weekender, so we will do that. The week
Yeah, it's Tuesday.
Was,
but it's the weekender.
Yeah, it's Tuesday, but the weekender. We're a little off keel, but that's okay. So last week was we were all wrong. Clark and James predicted a 3-0. I predicted a 2-1. Now the teams were Saturday was Tampa, Thursday was Florida, and Chicago was Monday.
Chicago, yeah.
A little brief talk about those games. I don't know. I think Toronto played good in the Chicago game. I think that maybe there was a lot of, maybe hype around Bedard coming to town or something like that, but it looks like he was kind of held off the score sheet. So that's probably a good thing in the spotlight. Other than that, it was Mrazek wasn't in net, so it wasn't a revenge tour for him there. But your thoughts on the game as a whole there for the Monday night game 4-1 loss?
Yeah, that was the Arvid Soderblom like coming out party. Like he had some good numbers before that game, but he looked great. And I will say one thing about that game is that I think the Leafs played pretty good. But I didn't think that they weren't looking too dangerous. I don't think too much on that Monday night game. I don't know if it was just because it was a Monday night or what it was. They controlled the puck pretty well, but I didn't think that their scoring chances were crazy good. They got a lot of decent looks on shots, but again, I just thought that Soderblom. It was one of those things. Remember, I don't know if it was the theme last year or the year before. I'm trying to think, but remember where Sheldon Keefe basically said like, yeah, if the goalie sees it all the way, he's going to save it most of the time, or whatever it was. Like, it was just kind of that. It was a lot of clean looks. And you thought tonight against Washington, obviously we'll get to the Washington one, but a lot of traffic in this one. And, a lot of there was a deflection goal. There was some odd man rushes. So just in that game against Chicago, I don't know exactly what it was. It just they got some shots and stuff, but it didn't look at any point like it was like dangerous. I just kind of got lulled into there's a shot, another shot. Okay. Obviously, I think the headline in that game, outside of Connor Bedard's first time in Toronto, I think that game's headline was the Ryan Reeves Corey Perry show. That never happened. So I think that's probably the thing that most people will remember from that one, honestly. Corey Perry scoring, pointing at the guys in the corner.
Missing curfew guys.
Yeah, the missing curfew guys. Yeah. So, I mean, I think that's kind of going to be the storyline that I'll remember from that game.
Yep.
And Joseph Woll, I think, looked pretty good in that one as well. That was another one. I think those are the two takeaways for me in that one.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I couldn't agree. I was going to mention it, the Corey Perry, Ryan Reeves thing. If you didn't, obviously Corey Perry has had our numbers for God knows how long. So it's fitting that he's on what seems to be a shitty team going forward this year, and he's the one that scores. To Thursday's game, we had Ilya Samsonov in net in Florida. I think I watched this one, if I'm not mistaken. Bob looked great, and Bob has been inconsistent over the past few years. Obviously, he had the playoffs this past year, but he had a 967 save percentage, and we got one goal past them, and that was Mitch Marner. So overall, I think Florida, I think we were kind of expecting a decent team that has a lot of injuries right now to come out slow, and they surprised us, obviously, and they took advantage of it. OEL looks great in Florida right now. And yeah, besides that, I don't think I really have anything else to say besides that, other than really, I think, I know we'll talk about Washington, but I think we probably should talk about Sammy's struggles as of late. Maybe there's something mentally going on or an injury that we might not know of that is underlining. But yeah, what are your thoughts on this one?
Yeah, so you know what, that one, didn't love that game. The fact that they had Florida, I mean, the fact that Florida had three of their major guys out, to me, that should have been Toronto's opportunity to really send a message. And all the talk going into that game was, oh, you know, we're mad about last year and them kicking us out of the playoffs. Man, it didn't really look like it at
No, they
all.
didn't.
It looked like they just got off a boat. Like that was the vibe I got that whole game, was they were on a yacht all day long, like getting some rays, and they decided to show up and put their equipment on. That was kind of the vibe I got.
Yep.
Didn't really love that game. I don't think it was horrible, but when you got Montour, who I think led their defensive group in scoring last year, Ekblad, who's a great player, Sam Bennett, who we all know about Sam Bennett. Just to me, that was a really wasted opportunity, and it just looked like they weren't really all there.
Yep.
Which I'm really happy to say that the Saturday game, I felt a whole lot different, and we'll get to that in a sec. But
Yeah. No.
I just didn't love that game on Thursday. It just kind of seemed like a waste. And like you said, I think one of the biggest storylines, and we'll get to it again, Samsonov just he's not. It doesn't look like he's ready. He had an up and down preseason, and through his starts so far, and I don't think that I'm ready to necessarily like give up on Ilya Samsonov, but at the same time, early results and the fact that they're wearing Leafs jerseys, I think we have a goalie controversy on our hands, and I don't think it's too early to say that. But let's wait for that. We'll get to that later.
Of course, no. And like you said in that Florida game, we expected us to come out on a team that was injured, and like you said, it looked like they just came off a boat. Like it should have been our revenge game from the playoffs. But I think Saturday's game was more or less that in the 4-3 overtime win, it was more or less just kind of asserting our dominance again against Tampa, because we won against them in the first round. Joseph Wall had another great game, held us in the game late. Couple snipes by Kucherov. I think both were on the power play. I don't think he could really help those ones, honestly.
It's Nikita Kucherov. I mean,
yeah,
it is what it is.
And then, of course, it was Knies' game. It was very nice to see that, not going to lie. We saw the likes of Domi setting him up on both goals. They kept that going into this next game. But, yeah, and then John Tavares with the overtime winner, basically on a tip of William Nylander's shot there. Knies had 3 points. It was a solid game from him, and in a barn that I think he hasn't been confident in over the past year. He lost the Frozen Four, and I saw a clip of TSN was like asking a bunch of Leafs guys like their least favorite barn, their favorite barn, and all that.
Yeah.
He's like, my least favorite is Tampa because I've lost here. So,
He's had a rough time.
Yeah, he has had a rough time.
Yeah.
But yeah, your thoughts on this game? Obviously, you watched it. I did not. I watched the highlights and I came home. I hopped in the shower and I was just like cheering in silence because Knies finally put the puck in the net.
Yeah. So full disclosure, on Saturday I was at the Rough Riders game.
Oh yes,
Shout out to CFL fans. But the game started at 2, so we got back to my house. I think it was already. I want to say it was already 1. I think it was 1-1 at one point, and then it was 2-1 and 3-1. I think, right? That was how it went. So I think it was 1-1 when we got home, and then or maybe 2-1, and then it was 2-1 because I remember getting the notification that Alex BRBBW scored on my phone. And then I think we walked in the door and it was 3-1. Like, they scored right when we walked in the door. So I came into the game with like, oh, they're playing bad. Like, this is not good. That was how I entered the viewing process for the game. So my perspective from that game was simply the comeback. That was pretty much all I had. And I thought the game overall was pretty even. I didn't think that it looked as though Tampa Bay was dominating from the parts I saw. And then, just to see, not only did Matthew Knies get 2, which was huge, a nice coming out party for him to get those under his belt. Max Domi looked sharp on those plays, getting those started. And we saw 2 different versions of Matthew Knies scoring as well. We saw him with an absolute snipe on the first one. And we know, Dylan, from our chats throughout the preseason, he has a bomb. And we haven't really been able to see it yet. He has that type of shot that can really make a difference in a game from a distance. And you know how hard it is to score from a distance in the NHL. So many goals nowadays are in tight or deflections or traffic or whatever. So for him to just cleanly snipe that in was really great to see out of him. And now that gives them Matthews, Nylander. I would say John Tavares is in that conversation, and Knies, who I would all be confident that can score from above the circles. Like, all 4 of those guys, just for forwards. And you talk about Klingberg, Riley can sneak one in every once in a while. I think Jake McCabe is underrated, but he hasn't shown it yet. But you have some of those forwards who can really score from a distance, and that changes the ability. That changes the structure that you can play in, and it changes how teams have to play you, because they can't just sit back and crowd the front of the net. They have to actually come out and play you a little bit harder. So I think that's going to be huge going forward. And then the second goal that he was able to score was basically from his knees on a dangle as he was coming in, and he lifted the puck over it was Johansson's glove. Yeah. So, you saw a couple versions of Matthew Knies. Now, 2 of the 3 goals that he has scored are essentially from his knees, or like some weird form of some weird angle. So, it's good to see his dynamic ability, because he can score in many ways, and that's the kind of player we all hope he is eventually. That's the kind of player we want Matthew Knies to be. So I'm gonna say Saturday was a great game. You saw the comeback. You saw overtime. I thought they controlled 96% of overtime with the puck. Yeah. I think Tampa had the puck for like 1 rush. Nothing happened, and then Toronto had it the rest of the time, which has been a problem for Toronto. Sometimes in 3-on-3, you see them kind of play the line change game where they just kind of wait it out and then eventually hope they get the puck. This time they had the puck the whole time. And what did we see? James, I'm going to give James a shout out here. David Kampf won the face-off to start overtime. He got off the ice, and they never saw ice again. But James loves those face-offs, so I'm just going to give James a shout out there.
He does,
but you know what? It was a great overtime. They controlled the puck. I thought Matthews had a great chance. Marner had a great chance. They had multiple good chances before Willie and John kind of hooked up on whatever that was for the game winner. And John Tavares, just to cap it off, puts another dagger in Tampa Bay, and you just love to see it. You love to see it. So that was my thoughts on Saturday.
Actually, I forgot to say that this actually was a start by Sammy, and he was pulled after the first period, I do believe so. So there was another issue there, because it does say here on the stat sheet that Wall didn't let in any goals. So
I think it was 3 goals on 8 shots. I think it was for Sammy, and that's the formula for getting pulled in the NHL. You can't do that.
And the other thing I wanted to really kind of point out, I feel like they kind of waited till the last 10 minutes of the game for there to be some excitement to make that final push. And I think it's something that obviously the team should probably work on. But obviously, I think it was was it a 6-on-5 on the? I don't think it was. But anyways, it's that final push. I think we always seem to get there, and in previous years it's been like, oh, we came up short because we didn't have enough time left. So that was my only other thing that I would point out. But overall, great game, great
You know, one
comeback.
thing, can I just touch on that really quick, Dylan? I can't remember if we talked about this another week recently, but I think it was Sheldon Keefe actually said in one of his post game conferences recently that this year during preseason and during camp, they actually practiced their 6-on-5, 4-on-3s, 5-on-3s. Like they practice those things more because most times in camp you don't really have time to work on those things. But because they brought back a lot of the same group as last year, and like the core who are actually going to be on the ice during a 6-on-5 are all pretty regular now.
Yeah.
They actually worked on it a bit in camp, but I think you saw that pay off early in the season a couple of times, clearly, because they scored a few times 6-on-5. And that's just something that you don't really think about as a fan. But for him to say that Guy Boucher took some time out of the power play time and whatever to work on 6-on-5, which is such a unique situation.
Yeah.
But it just shows that they plan on using it and
Which
they
is
plan on
nice
being
to hear.
good with it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's nice to hear because they're expecting that final push late in the game, which
Yeah.
obviously
And they need it.
you can't
It's
always
so
prepare
important.
for it, but it's something that is very important, especially in today's game. The week that will be, we've already played today's game. It was what was it called today? The Frozen Frenzy, I think. All 32 teams
Oh,
played
yeah.
today.
Yeah.
16 games filled with excitement. The Leafs faced off against the Washington Capitals. What I thought was a great game
Yeah.
overall in goals. I think that our shots were a little bit down, but overall, I was watching the first period there and I saw Ovi crash into the wall, and I'm just like, that can't be a goal, right? And then I was just like, wait a second, but Wool got up and he was capable of stopping it, but we've had some crappy luck in other years with goals being called back, so I'm glad that one was called back.
Not recently though, man. They're crushing it with the challenges.
And
Crushing it with the challenges.
I kind of felt bad for the Capitals because that would have been their first ever lead of the season, which really sucks.
Man, that is a sad statement. And the fact that Ovechkin scored his first goal of the season, what is it, 9 games in or something for them now?
They've only played 4, so.
Oh, I guess maybe that was dating back to last year then, or maybe
Yeah,
preseason.
maybe.
I can't remember, but I thought I heard Mike Johnson say that he hadn't scored in 9 games or something.
Oh.
That's unheard of. It's Alexander Ovechkin we're talking about. So for him to get it, of course he scored his first one against Toronto. Of course.
Of course. He had 13 shots, so
we had a podcast tonight, so of course we had to score. But no, it's I thought tonight was a great game. If we're just going to get into it here, Joseph Woll got the game belt, the championship belt on his shoulders. Well deserved. Played great. Made some really great saves, cross ice saves, out of position. But he wasn't out of position. Like those saves where he has to dive across, and it looks like a great save, but then you look at the replay, you're like, oh, he just got himself into position and made a really nice save. He wasn't scrambling. And one thing that a buddy texted me during the game tonight, and he said, Ilya Samsonov is starting to remind me of when Jack Campbell started really to struggle, and he was all over the place. It's like, Jack, you were when we had Jack Campbell and we were all buzzing about him. Remember that year we were buzzing about Jack Campbell maybe being a Vezina candidate?
Yes, that first month or two, whatever it was.
Yeah, and when he was hot, he was poised and calm, and he didn't move too much. He didn't move more than he had to. And then when he started to lose it, it looked like he was just all over the place. And I think that's kind of where Sammy's at right now. It's unfortunate because last year he was, to me, looking very poised and calm, and somewhere along the lines that changed.
I think a big focus of his is his mental game, because I have seen moments where he just kind of goes fully left field on his opinion or his responses, even with the media or just in general. And obviously, if a goalie is not mentally prepared, I don't think you can really overcome that in a game. So obviously, there's probably a coach in Toronto. We've got the likes of everybody around to help out those that are dealing with stuff. But I think it might be something mental. Obviously, if there is an injury, we don't know of it right now. But to me, with Wall, he just looks large, and I don't know. I think he might be 6'3", 6'4", something like that.
He's a bigger guy. Yeah,
he's not fully the largest, but he takes up. He covers a lot of the net properly, and in my opinion, his pads look big, and he's young and he's confident, in my opinion. It's something that obviously you need in this game.
And he's cheap for
He is
3
cheap.
years. 3 years,
The
under
thing-
$800,000. That
the
could be
thing
huge,
that
honestly. Like that could, if he turns into what he's looking like he
100%.
could be, that could be like a really important storyline going forward, especially if the Leafs can develop one of Dennis Hildeby, Keith
That
Petruzzelli,
is true.
Artur Akimov, or let me think of the other Russian's name,
Did you say
Vyacheslav Peksa.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, Hildeby, Peksa,
Right.
Akimov, or Petruzzelli. If any one of those can turn into an NHL backup goalie in the next year or two, that could turn into a less than $2 million goalie tandem. Just a storyline that I'm thinking of.
Yeah,
when we have
100%.
Nylander's contract coming up. Who else needs one? There's Bertuzzi needs a renewal. Maybe Domi if we renew
Klingberg
Domi.
if we
So like
want him. Yeah.
that could be like low key a huge X
And
factor if this ends up happening.
And those minor league goalies are big in my opinion. And I know that that's kind of a bigger trend that the game is kind of pushing towards. Obviously, you need to take up more of the net, but no, like this, having Wool on a cheap contract is amazing. The only thing I feel bad for is Sammy, because I do believe after this season he's a UFA now, because we just went through arbitration with him. Obviously, it's way early on in the season to really tell what it will turn out to be, but hopefully Sammy's okay. In regards to the game, Matthews potted one. He had a beautiful dish to William Nylander on a break. Riley scored power play goal, and Tavares had a tip in. Yeah, no, I'm gonna blame myself on this one. So I was grabbing a snack. I was grabbing some yogurt and some protein, and in my head I was just like, yeah, it would be really nice to have a shutout. And then next thing I hear is goal scored. And I heard the buzzer, and I'm like, I'm gonna blame myself on this one. I'm sorry, Wall.
I can't believe you.
I know. I really couldn't believe myself either. It was a thought, and I was just like, crap, no one heard it, but I'll admit my fault when I have one. So the rest of the week, we have the Stars on Thursday. I think they're all road games, if I'm not mistaken. And then we have the Preds on Saturday. I think the biggest contest will be Thursday's game. Obviously, I think the Preds, defensive-wise and goaltending, have it. But I would say the Stars, I think, would be like our biggest kind of testimony to kind of see where we're at against another bigger team, a Stanley Cup favorite team. What are your predictions for the rest of the week? Obviously, there's only 2 games, so.
Yeah, so we don't know quite yet who the goalies will be in which game. I would assume you'd go with your higher paid goalie for Dallas, because let's be honest, Dallas is a wagon this year. I think they're going to be a very good hockey team, especially after adding Matt Duchene in the offseason and keeping pretty much everybody else. They had a really nice offseason. So I think they're going to be a really good team. I think you put Sammy out there for that. I know Wall's got the hot hand. They might be tempted to, and I could definitely see them going with Joseph Wall. But my guess is the plan is to go with Sammy in this one and Joseph Wall on Saturday. Maybe they reverse that. They'll split the games, I'm sure. But yeah, Dallas is definitely the bigger test. Nothing against Nashville, but they're in a weird spot right now. Their highest paid forward is Ryan O'Reilly. Actually, I shouldn't say that. I think Philip Forsberg is the highest paid forward, but he wasn't healthy at the beginning of the year. So at one point, Ryan O'Reilly was the highest paid forward on the roster. It's a weird team. Luke Schen's out for a bunch of time for Nashville too. They're the type of team. I was actually talking to my good pal Jeremy Corrigan today. And Nashville's playing Vancouver tonight. And he basically said to like, Nashville is one of those teams that you could dominate or they could shut you out because of UC Saros. So that's kind of the way I look at Nashville. Back to Dallas really quick. I think it could be one of those games that are like a shootout where there's a lot of goals and a lot of things happen. It could be a high event game. But it could also be like a 2-1 game because both teams have the ability to have a low-scoring defensive style game. So we're going to have to see, I guess, which teams come out and which goalies are in net for Toronto, I guess. I'm sure it'll be Ottinger and Saros for the others, but I guess it's going to kind of be wait and see. I would assume it's going to be a split, and this could be a split, 1 win, 1 loss, and it could go either way, honestly. They could beat Dallas and lose to Nashville or the other way around. So that's where I'm going to go with it this one, especially after I went 3-0 last week and just made a fool of myself.
Yeah,
and went 1-2.
1-1.
Yeah, well, I'll say 1-1.
Yeah, 1-1.
I'll say 1-1. And you know what? I'll add Washington, so I'll say it's a 2-1 week because they beat Washington. And we were supposed to have this episode on Sunday. So in fairness, it's James's fault. I'll say 2-1, even though it's a cheap prediction because we already had a win under the belt.
Yes, of course. I would agree with that statement as well. Like I said, I think the hardest battle will be Dallas. I think they're playing Pittsburgh tonight. I don't know the score of that game right now, but
let's do an out of town scoreboard check.
I was watching a bit of it earlier on, and I was hearing Colby Armstrong announcing it for the Pens, so I thought that was kind of funny. But yeah, 2-1 on the week. I was gonna say 2-1, just because Capitals don't look solid. They're just chasing that goal record.
Man. If we can go back to Washington, the game tonight really quick, because we didn't really dive in much, but Washington looks not good. This isn't the Washington we're used to seeing. They're not fast. They don't have a whole lot of foot speed anymore. Not only has Ovechkin been stationary on the power play for years, but he looks stationary a lot more often now. And it just seems like a team that is trying to keep this group together simply for one reason, and that's to get Ovechkin the goal record. It doesn't seem like they have much purpose outside of that, and hopefully Washington fans aren't watching and they're going to torches and pitchfork me here, but it doesn't seem like their window is open anymore. They have a lot of good pieces.
I don't think they really have any good rookies either. Like Connor
really.
McMichael, because I saw him in London. Like that kid can score. I will say that, but like he's not playing with OV, so like, no. and he has to build up that confidence too. Like I think Matthew Phillips was up there on the first line with.
Yeah, but you'd be surprised. Matthew Phillips is already mid-20s. Like he's not young anymore.
No, I know that's what I mean.
And Sandin is mid-20s. Like they're the second oldest team in the league. And I think that's heavily brought down. They should be the oldest team, but like Connor McMichael and a couple of the other young guys that they're forcing into the lineup because they have to. Those guys are bringing the age group down. Otherwise, they would be a well over average age of 30. They're at 29.6 or something. I saw tonight.
Wow.
Pittsburgh's actually the oldest roster.
Yeah,
so Pittsburgh, Washington.
Yeah,
I guess that's kind of the price you pay for keeping the same core together for as long as those two teams have. And you know what? One day Toronto's probably going to be in that boat. I kind of hope they are, because that means they, hopefully want to come at that point.
Yeah,
yeah, exactly.
100%.
But that's kind of just the downside of putting yourself into that position. But they've had some success, so good for that.
Yeah, no,
but they just didn't look good tonight. And if I can I'll wrap this. I did send a text out to a buddy tonight. It's like, this is fun for a change. Nice, easy, dominating game. We haven't had one yet this season, and it was kind of nice to get up 4-0. And obviously Ovechkin got the one, but it didn't really matter. And at no point did Washington look like they were going to push for for anything close to it,
No.
comeback or anything. So I just got a text from our good friend Myron, who's clearly watching. And I think we have a topic maybe for another day soon, but should Washington trade Ovechkin to a team with a better supporting cast to help him get the scoring record? That might become a conversation before too long, especially if that team keeps losing. Thank you, Myron.
Yeah.
But we'll talk about that another show, I think.
100%. No, the one thing I did actually want to point out, and it's Mr. Pete the Heat's guy, TJ Brody. Now, Ovechkin did not score a goal from his place on the power play. He scored from basically the crease. I saw TJ Brody get down and deflect one of Ovi's shots, and I was like, there are not very many people that will get down and block one of his shots.
I think he got 2 or 3.
I know. I was just like, this is crazy. And I have recently, like in beer league, I've seen some guys like just be able to belt off a couple shots like in a game, and I'm just like, the craft in that is actually so freaking hard, and especially at the speed that Ovi's shot is coming at. Obviously, TJ Brody is a master in it, but I wanted to shout him out because blocking that is brave as hell, because you will not ever catch me trying to block one of those shots.
I think in the intermission, actually, Jeff O'Neill made a funny little point. He's like, yeah, that's the game plan, but you can also see a lot of people around the league that just don't want to do it, and they just don't. Like, they know that's their assignment. They know they have to be in that area, and they have to block the shot, but they just, like, kind of don't. And, not many people get upset about that.
No, but they more or less block their goalie's view in a general sense rather than actually get down and block it to, like, help their goalie, right?
So, well, I even saw a couple times, it was Brody did it once, and I saw Liljegren do it, where you kind of just take away half the net, and you just kind of let Ovechkin shoot on the post side of the net, like the close side post, and then that way, at least the goalie knows where he has to be, because Ovechkin's got one of those shots, we've seen it for years and years and years, where he can take the same shot from the same spot 12 times in a game and put it in 12 different spots on the net, and the goalie is guessing every single time. Like, that's just how good he is. That's why he has as many goals as he has. And if you can at least give your goalie the opportunity to take away half of the net, you have a 50% better chance, I guess, of making a save. So I think that's partially what the plan was tonight, is let's just block this much of the net, and he can shoot at this half, but not this half. Maybe that was part of it.
Yeah, no, 100%. I couldn't agree there. Before we get into the rest of the episode, our podcast is brought to you by DraftKings. The NFL season is going strong, and DraftKings Sportsbook is hooking up new customers with an offer that's even stronger. Bet $5 on any game this week to score $200 instantly in bonus bets. And DraftKings isn't stopping there. All customers can take advantage of a sweetener offer on every game this October. Now, I wanted to talk about this week. In my eyes, this week's game to watch, it is the Bengals against the 49ers. Comment your predictions of that game, because I think that one will be a solid game. Get in on the game day greatness. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app now and use code THPN. New customers can score $200 instantly in bonus bets when you bet $5 on the NFL. That's code THPN only on DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NFL. The crown is yours. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER or visit www.1800gambler.net. In New York, call 877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY 467-369. In Connecticut, help is available for problem gambling. Call 888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org. Please play responsibly on behalf of Boot Hill Casino and Resort, licensed partner, Golden Nugget Lake Charles. 21 plus, age varies by jurisdiction. Voided in Ontario. Bonus bets expire 168 hours after issuance. See sportsbook.draftkings.com/football terms for eligibility and deposit restrictions, terms, and responsible gaming resources. That's a doozy.
Man, that's a mouthful. And as I say every single time, batteries not included.
Exactly.
And batteries not included.
With that being said, the good, the bad, the ugly. I will ask. I have mine. What is your good for the week?
The good for the week, if we're looking back all the way, because we're kind of including last week, I think, as well in this. There's a few things. I think, first of all, Matthew Knies, the Tampa Bay comeback, I think that's probably should be included in your good of the last week. I think Morgan Riley, I think, has looked quite good under the radar, but tonight he got a goal and, a primary assist on John Tavares' goal as well, I believe. So I think he's been looking really nice. And, just Max Domi kind of getting into his groove. I think those are my three goods. I know it's only supposed to be one thing, but I'm kind of packaging those because there hasn't been an overwhelming good for me, obviously with the 2 losses last week. But I'm going to package those 3 things as a nice little trio of good.
Yeah.
So there's
overall,
my trio.
You hit on Knies. I would say secondary scoring. Pardon me.
Secondary.
Great.
That's a term. Secondary.
Secondary. We have been finding some other guys that have put the puck in the net. And my other key thing here, I looked at this game. He had 1 point in this game. So in 6 games, John Tavares has a sneaky 10 points already. Mm-hmm. And I don't think anybody's really talking about this. He has been really consistent in Toronto, and I think it gets overshadowed by Austin Matthews, Mitch Marner, and William Nylander. And I know that there has been discussions over and over again. Trade Tavares. He isn't good. I'm pretty sure he is at least a point per game, if not more now in Toronto. He's aging like fine wine, maybe. He's been getting
fine
better.
Kombucha, because he's a kombucha guy.
But I think nobody's talking about this, and obviously it's still early on in the season. But for him to stay consistent this late in his career, I know he's not that old, but consistency is key, and it's something that
he's only a year older than me, Dylan. Don't make me feel too bad.
We paid him in a general sense for this, and obviously we talk about it. It is pinched by the pennies of what we can and cannot afford, and this guy stepping up in not only we saw it in the playoffs, big moments, and in regular seasons, key moments, like he daggered Tampa Bay again in overtime. I think it's something that gets overshadowed a lot.
Yeah, and just to touch on that, I think not only that, but William Nylander has looked solid alongside of him. And I think coming into the year, there was some talk that maybe the two of them didn't work all that great together. Like they played together for a while, yes, but maybe they weren't the best duo. And there was already, I saw talk in like preseason that Marner and Nylander should flip again on the wing. But I think those two are proving everybody wrong. Those two work really, really well together. Maybe they changed something. Maybe they developed a little bit more chemistry coming into the year. I do really like Bertuzzi on their line as well.
Yeah.
That's coming into this week. We're getting away from last week.
Yeah.
But I really liked tonight specifically, Bertuzzi on that line.
Yeah.
I don't know what it was. Maybe it was a flash in the pan. I hope they keep it together for a little while. Maybe give him 10 games if you can. Yarncroke didn't do a ton on the first line, but I think he can survive that for a while. Or eventually maybe you put Domi up there and try him or something like that. But I really, really liked Bertuzzi on that line, and I think that could have been a game where we found our second line. Like that is the line, potentially.
Yeah, no,
so we'll see. But Tavares being that kind of driver, just constantly doing everything, all the little things right. We've talked about that for years. That's a great one. He's been so good this year. And when the team hasn't looked great, he's usually the one that has. So I'm going to
Yeah.
say it's a great pick for good.
Yeah, no, he's somebody that complements off of other people's strengths. Like he knows that, oh, hey, Bert's going to go into the corner here, so I have to position myself here because he's going to kick it out at this point. And then he's going to be like, oh, I have to look for Willie or I have to look for Mo on the point, kind of sort of thing. And he's really good at it. He has a very great hockey IQ. The bad for me this week is giving up leads and having the battle back. I talked about it a little bit. It was a shaky start there in Tampa. Obviously, I don't think we scored first in any of the other two games last week. If we did, it was we obviously just gave up the lead, and I know it's early on. I'm glad that this week we didn't experience like 6-7 goals, which is a plus. But it is still early on. We're still getting those cobwebs off. But in my opinion, I think that's something that we have to work on moving forward.
Yeah, I think for my bad this week, I'm going to go with, and I hate doing this. I hate it because we made it a big topic. But I think I'm going to go with Ryan Reeves. Just we go back to that Chicago game and the Corey Perry thing. Nothing really happened there. You go into the Florida game. There was that dirty hit. I don't think it was that bad on Willie Nylander. I think that was the Florida game. You didn't do anything. The Tampa game, it's a heated rivalry. Didn't really do anything.
Is there anybody?
Tonight,
Jano, I was going to say, is there anybody in Tampa?
Well, Jano, yeah. But there's a few guys on that Tampa team that I just wish somebody would punch in the face. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then tonight against Washington, like Tom Wilson was flying around a little bit. And I don't know. Like, I'm not saying I hate. I'm not putting it in the ugly category, but I'm just saying, the first two games got, I think, a lot of people's hopes up, I guess, on Ryan Reeves and just that he was going to be this guy. And you physically can't fight every game. You just physically can't. That's not, it's not possible. It hasn't happened forever. I think the leader in fights, I think last year had like 8 or 9. Like, you don't fight every game.
Yeah.
But I was kind of hoping he would be a little bit more imposing out there in the last 4 games, and I haven't seen it. And that's kind of maybe, I'm going to put him in the bad, but I hope it doesn't last very long.
Yeah, of course.
And the only other thing, I'll maybe save the other thing I was going to say for ugly.
Yeah, no, I would
Reeves,
agree with that. The only thing I would say is, like, I think we saw him chirping back at Perry in the Chicago game,
yes.
But I think Perry knows that he has no chance in hell in winning that battle.
No, he's not gonna do it. He's never going to. But I think you have to, at some point, like Ryan Reeves is the type of guy, and I think we're all kind of hoping for this, is that he just kind of forces it onto somebody.
True. Like
he said he doesn't jump people. Like after Arbor Jack guy jumped him in the Montreal game, he's like, I've never jumped anybody, but I kind of just want to see him jump somebody.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. So, you'd rather him go back on the word a little bit.
A little bit on that one specifically, yeah.
My ugly, I think it's just Sammy. Sammy hasn't looked confident. I think he needs to get back in the mental state where he's fully capable of believing in himself and just being solid in between the pipes rather than, like you said, kind of just scrambling all over the place. And I hope, obviously, there's nothing underlying that's going on with him. But I know that being a goalie is not easy in this league. It's not easy in any league, really, to be honest. And being in Toronto, especially, is hard on anybody's mental state. So that's my ugly. But of course, I hope that he can get better.
Yeah, that was going to be mine too. So I'll just kind of touch on that maybe quickly. The one thing you mentioned is he's talking a lot more in the media. And I think that's a testament to just him maybe feeling a little bit more confident with his English. Like, because I know that English has been an issue for him in the past. And I think
being surrounded by a bunch of Russians in Washington kind of helps your Russian, not your
yeah,
English.
he didn't need to worry about it there as much, and there wasn't as much media as well in
True.
Washington. And now I think he's kind of been forced to maybe figure it out a little bit more and kind of open up a little bit more. And I think he's a naturally goofy guy. Like you
He
can
is.
kind of see it
Yeah.
in his answers and the way he talks and some of his post game comments where he kind of criticizes himself. You can kind of see that he is kind of a goofy guy, and most goalies are. I have a brother who's a
100%.
goalie.
They're one of a
He's a
kind.
goofy guy. Yeah. And I think maybe he just let that too much in the preseason and coming into camp, and maybe he was feeling like too confident or something along those lines because he just hasn't looked right. And like you said, I don't know if it's an injury. He did get popped. Remember, right before the season started in practice that one day, he got popped in the face
I don't know why. I don't know
happened.
why I thought it was a different season. It's all been
he gets injured a lot. He got injured like 4 or 5 times last year too. You got to remember that he was out for a couple of games here and there, like 4 or 5 times.
But yeah, he did go off like behind the bench or whatever. Like he was like, physically walking off.
I think that was like a shot to the shoulder or like the collarbone or something. But just with goalies, you simply never know with their health, what they're dealing with. They could be having a groin issue one day or a knee issue or even upper body injuries for goalies are tough because they rely so much on their positioning and they're squaring up to the puck. If he got hit in the collarbone that time and his collarbone is bugging him, that could legitimately be an issue.
Yeah,
we don't know.
Tightness in the neck, anything.
Absolutely, and they haven't said anything, so we don't know. So I'm hoping that's not the case, and it's just like early season struggles. Maybe and you have to remember too, Dylan. If you look back at the highlights of some of those games that he started, there were some really bad defensive breakdams.
Oh, 100%. So we can't fully blame him, of course.
No, especially the Tampa one where he got pulled. Like there was that goal that Kucherov passed it. I can't remember who was in front of the net. If it was Brent. Oh, it was BRBBW because he scored the goal. There was nobody within 18 feet of him. Like he was all by himself. And he tipped the puck in, but he had all the time in the world to do whatever he wanted. And that's just one of many, but there are several examples that it just, the start of the season struggle hasn't necessarily been all on him as well. And
no,
we have
100%.
To remember that.
And I think
now, Joseph Wall has forced a conversation because of how well he's played and his numbers. But at the same time, Washington, different beast than Tampa, different beast than Florida, those kinds of things. And I just think I'm going to give Sammy some time, but the ugly for me is that the goaltending controversy is starting to happen. And when goaltending controversies happen in Toronto, they skyrocket. And I just hope that that's not going to take over too much of the headlines in the next while.
Well, I do know for a fact that in the sports card world, everybody was betting on Joseph Wall to be the starter, so it might happen sooner rather than later.
Did you get your cards early? Because
I need to, because he's signing in Toronto at the Sports Card Expo in a couple weeks.
Get on it, man.
Yeah. But yeah, no, I have confidence in him. I think we might actually see a battle at some point in the season, and it's not a bad thing to have. But yes,
it's not. Especially like we talked about earlier, Joseph Wall is the cheaper goalie, and if you can, let's be real here. If we're going to start a conversation, we could talk about trading Samsonov and opening up some money for potential that big defenseman we all really, really badly want that we can't afford. So who knows?
100%. Off the glass. Obviously, I think this is just a point in the episode where we kind of just mention anything else that went on during the week. Maybe it's media wise, maybe it's anything else. I wanted to mention something because I don't mind OVO clothing. I've never owned anything OVO, but they just released a Original 6 little collab, and Domi and Sir Ty Domi were in the advertisement. I was just
Chris Chelios.
Yes, Chris Chelios, of course. I was just like, why does Drake have to do this to me? Like, this just hurts me because it's gonna hurt my pocket later down the road.
And you can guarantee like a t-shirt's like $300 probably.
Oh, like they're like 150 flat. Yeah.
Oh, gross.
Yeah.
I was just at Costco. Dylan. You can get a 4-pack of white or black t-shirts for $24. Okay, that's where I'm at in life.
Well,
let's be honest.
We could ask Carrie, Chris's wife to do what she did for Chris. So there is that option always out there because she did the little design of the Leafs in OVO little logo. But anything else for you? I don't know if you saw that or not. The OVO.
Yeah, I saw a little bit. I only saw the Rangers, the Blackhawks,
in
and
Toronto,
the Leafs. So I don't know if they're like hiding the other three teams or what they're doing, but
or maybe
it did look
the other original
or
16. Who knows?
sorry Montreal, sorry Detroit, sorry
Boston.
Boston. Yeah, but you know what? That would make sense.
Yeah, that would make sense.
They're all division rivals for the most part.
But
But yeah, no, it's really cool. My off the glass, if I can just throw it out there, is I'm going to give a huge kudos to the NHL for reversing their stupid rule on pride tape and canceling that and kind of saying go ahead and big shout out to Travis Dermott for kind of being the guy who made it happen. Now I don't know if they were going to do this anyways, or if there was something else in the works for this, or if Travis Dermott actually forced their hand by doing it in a game. But either way, shout out to Travis Dermott. I know a lot of people who are looking at buying Travis Dermott jerseys because of this. So shout out to him. And it was a stupid decision in the first place. It's stupid that they had to reverse it this early on. It just goes to show that, somebody in that office was like, oh, we messed up.
I think that's also a big talking point that, like, I think the advertising part of the NHL is extremely old, and they need to put some younger guys and girls into that team as a whole, because like it just seems like it's always an older person's opinion on everything. It's never a younger person.
Well, that's a good point, Dylan, and I also think that there is an attitude around some of the NHL board of directors, some of the governors, those people who are, big decision makers for teams, that they don't want to be a part of the conversation. So they back out instead of going all in. And I think that that's something that the NBA has been huge on. I think at times the NFL has been big on it, but they pick and choose. Baseball has been sort of tough because baseball's, that's such an old school, very traditional. They don't want to mess with stuff. Bryce Harper's come out and spoken up against that. They've opened up a little bit in baseball where they sometimes allow them to change their bats for certain things. They have the pink bats for breast cancer, for example. But the NBA has been very outspoken on a lot of issues. They change their jerseys all the time, and we don't want to be in the conversation. We don't want this to become a thing, a distraction. And I think they missed the point, is that they were, in doing the things that they've been doing for the last several years, I think they were including a lot of people that thought they weren't included in the sport. And for them to come out now at this point in time and say, hey, you know what? None of it. Scrap it all. It's just like, see, that's making it worse. You're not helping things. You're making things worse. So I know this is a small gesture to just say that they can support causes by using any tape they want. It's a small gesture, but I think it's a smart one, and just get it out of the way early so we don't have to talk about it all season. And I hope that this helps some people who might have felt dejected by that decision feel less dejected by the decision, basically.
100%. Yeah, no, that's a good one. I totally forgot about that one going on. The bearded blue warrior. I know you don't have one, so I will match you and not have mine. I had to clean up my room for a party this weekend, so mine's stuck away. Yeah, Halloween. So have one coming up. So your bearded blue warrior this week. Who is that?
I'm going with Josh Bean. Who's Josh Bean, you ask? The video coach for the Maple Leafs, who continuously wins challenges time after time. Yes. I don't think he's lost one in his career as the Leafs video coach, like in-game video coach. And he got another one tonight against the Capitals where Ovechkin was obviously behind the goalie. The biggest thing for that challenge, Dylan, was that he was on top of the stick. So when Joseph Woll went to lift his hand up, he couldn't because he got jammed up underneath Ovechkin's knee, dropped his stick, couldn't get his hand up to make the save in time. That's where I think the challenge was won. So again, shout out. I think it's Josh Bean. It might be Jordan Bean. So sorry if it's not Josh Bean.
It's Mr. Bean.
Yeah, well, sure, Mr. Bean. Actually, we're going to be calling him Mr. Bean if he keeps winning challenges because he's going to become a head coach someday.
Um,
So shout out to it might be Jordan Bean now that I'm thinking about it, but shout out to the video coach, Mr. Bean,
yeah,
because he's doing a great job and he's making Sheldon Keefe look like a genius. And I know it's the upstairs guys doing all the hard work. So shout out to
yeah.
those
I,
guys.
I actually did have a question about that. Was that like a mic that the assistant coach was talking into on his wrist?
Yeah, he's got a spy mic on his wrist. He's
Yeah,
got one of
because I
those
was like,
like double oh
I was like,
007.
what are you doing here? Like,
Yeah,
it
so
doesn't.
he's got a that's Dean Chanel. He's the penalty kill coach, but he's also the one who has the microphone to upstairs. So he's got he's got an earpiece in, and he's got a little microphone in his wrist that he just has to like squeeze something to talk. And if you ever saw tonight, for example, when they called the timeout to talk about it, he like put it in Sheldon Keefe's mouth, like he like put it up to his face to like say, "Hey, do you want to say something?" And then he's like, "Yeah, check the stick or something." I can't remember. You could see it in the
Oh,
replay though. And so he like, yeah, he used to like squeeze a little button, but it's in his wrist, so he looks like a bodyguard or like a hitman or
yeah, he
something.
does. It
It's
looks
great.
really, really cool. It's a
Yeah.
really cool concept, actually. I
Oh
never
yeah.
really thought that the league would get into something like that, but that is cool.
Yeah.
My bearded blue warrior, I'm gonna go with Joseph Wall. He stepped up in the
Good
key
one.
moments. Joseph Wallace stood on his head. I hope to meet him in a couple weeks. I know that Matthew Knies is going to be there, and he would have been my other bearded blue warrior as well. But thinking about getting his autograph too, so it's going to be a doozy. Max Domi, shout out to Max Domi, he's going too. I just found out today. It's going to be a good one.
Nice.
But yeah, that's my bearded blue warrior. Anything else to wrap up this episode today?
I think this game against Dallas on Thursday is going to probably be the marquee matchup of the week in the league. I think these are two teams right now. The Leafs are getting back, hopefully, into some winning ways. Dallas is a very, very strong team. And there's a lot of ties between the two teams as well. It's going to be John Klingberg's return to Dallas. We're going to see Tyler Seguin, who always has ties to the Leafs, regardless of how good or bad he is, Mason Marchment. And there's a bunch of other ties. Max Domi, he's his return as well to Dallas after being part of the playoff run last year. So I think there's a lot of headlines. Obviously, the goaltending controversy is going to take over this week, so look out for that. That should be exciting. And, not to be too nerdy about how the line combos are going to be, but will Tyler Bertuzzi stay on that second line? I think that's something we're going to watch this week as well. So I think this Dallas game is going to probably answer a lot of questions, and I'm just kind of looking forward to the week.
Dallas is looking dominant as we speak, 4-1 on Pittsburgh, and they are 3-0-1 on the season already. So yeah, they're looking like the team to beat, one of the teams to beat out of the West. So we will see how that matches up Thursday. Other than that, we hope you have a wonderful, wonderful week. Shout out to James for not being here.
Screw you, James. Have fun on Magic Mountain.
We hope you're enjoying your trip, James. Thank you for finally sending the code. And yeah, we will see you probably next Sunday if if Clark's available. Should be
able to figure it out.
Alrighty. Well, everybody have a wonderful, wonderful week. We'll see you in the next one.
Or we're not going anywhere.